lot of people say JavaScript won't be a big thing in the future. They're wrong. Here's why. JavaScript is probably one of the most fundamental languages that will probably transform the future in the next 5 to 10 years. What made a big shift for me when it came to JavaScript is the fact that TypeScript came in. Now there's TypeScript that made it modular. So you're able to make different components using TypeScript that allowed you to build out a much bigger system using JavaScript. And there's so many things that can be done with JavaScript. It amazes me. And I think one of the last places that JavaScript hasn't hit yet is AI. There's some TensorFlow projects working with it, but I think Python is a huge component of that. So what I think in the future between JavaScript and Python is going to be an integration between the two, where Python AI services will be wrapped around with JavaScript, and JavaScript will be brought in. So you'll have all the code, whatever, in Python, but JavaScript will be brought in, where the JavaScript would be accessing the Python code through some framework, which would be huge because I would love to see how you can connect to your AI using JavaScript. I know it sounds crazy, right? But the future of JavaScript is going to continue to expand. And I think that one of the things you want to look at in building your platforms, at least that's what I've been considering, is all JavaScript. All JavaScript, because is the beauty in creating not just a front end using maybe like React. Well, you can use whatever your flavor is. You can use Vue, Angular. I like React because it's really, really, really easy to use. But beyond that, you have JavaScript for backend, all types of things. There's so many services that are building, and it has almost, came to this fruition that everything's going in one direction. So if you're someone who's still using other platforms, other types of coding things, I would recommend shifting to a node project type style. Start using JavaScript to start writing your code. I'm not talking about JavaScript in your like HTML. I'm talking about JavaScript into your actual framework. Another one that I liked a lot was Electron.js. This is also a desktop service creator for JavaScript. So what happens is, like, for example, Microsoft Teams. What else is there? Discord. I think Twitch. I think it was as well, and Slack. These different services that you can run on your physical computer is written in Electron.js, which is really nice because they also use JavaScript as well to build those frameworks that can literally physically use your desktop. So you think about this here. Think about how JavaScript is taking over everything from systems. I'm not talking about operating systems. I'm not talking about root level assembly language and everything like that. So you still have to use all the other languages for this. But what I'm getting at is when you're building products almost from end to end. If you're not getting anything lower below the application layer, you're literally building the entire system using JavaScript. Your backend servers, your front end applications, your AI, and maybe the wrappers around Python, or who knows if you want to use all JavaScript, we'll see. You're building out, your sockets and your connections that can communicate back and forth continuously using JavaScript. I have to say, JavaScript in the next 10 years, between now and 2021, in the next 10 years, JavaScript is going to be the language that will dominate pretty much a lot of our infrastructure. If you want to be an infrastructure, you want to build in these top IoT systems and services and everything like that, JavaScript is the way to go. I think. I could be wrong. And I know people will say, it'll be C++, which I'm sure it will be. At the embedded languages level, it will be C++, or some language at that level. But when you're looking at connecting systems or just trying to build services to communicate between each other, who knows? JavaScript could suffice. So what I would say for anyone who's trying to become a developer, or at least looking at writing applications or building systems, I would say jump on JavaScript right off the bat. Here's a few examples. If you're looking at, for example, how it changed, number one, it added in TypeScript, which made things more modular and made code a lot more flexible into components and pieces that you can put together and build, and that allows your code to be a little more flexible. 2, there was Node. Node that came out was a big part of it. Node.js is a backend server that allows you to asynchronously send information to your front-end clients with no problem. But what made that also transformative is Node also expanded into creating things like clients and connections and socket things that allow you to build multiple different ways to communicate in real time using backend servers. One of the biggest part of JavaScript that really made a big transformation was on Node. Node came out with something called NPM, which is a Node package manager. That changed everything, because with Node package manager NPM, that allowed for developers to build packages, discrete packages of code in this large collection of packages that allowed other developers to use, consume, and help them build their packages. And what you realize, if you ever use a Node package manager, you'll see under one particular code set, right, there's like a lot of assets. All these assets are them using other code providers. People are made other packages, and it's like a big web of packages nestled together. Those other languages don't have the flexibility or the nimbleness as JavaScript does. Now, it just works. It makes me very, very happy to know that that's how they do it. So anyway, if you're writing code, look at JavaScript. JavaScript is one of the best things. Like I said, in the future, when you're dealing with infrastructure, dealing with the changes of there's a lot of changes when there's the gig economy moving forward and everything with the gig economy. All these products need to be made that need to be nimble. And I think JavaScript is one of the fastest languages that can transform, the infrastructure, the way people work, how people operate. The future in the next 10 years is going to be very important. I think JavaScript would be one of the languages, if not the only language, that will help transform all of that for us. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.